Welcome to the 2023 State of the City event. I am Juan Contreras. I'm the president of the Greater Idaho Falls Association of Realtors. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to our event. As a reminder, this event is twofold. One is for us to learn from Mayor Rebecca Casper about the state of our great city, and the other is the opportunity for us to contribute to the Mayor's Scholarship Fund. So what is the Mayor's Scholarship Fund? Former Idaho Falls Mayor Jared Furman started the Mayor's Scholarship Fund in 2006. The Mayor's Scholarship Fund has been awarding scholarships to local students in grades 8 to 12 for over a decade. Why have a citywide scholarship program? An educated workforce is good for our community, our city, and our state. It takes an extraordinary visionary community to support students through these scholarships and inspire meaningful change in the lives of Eastern Idaho's young people. The continued endorsement of individuals, businesses, and corporations is vital to provide financial assistance to deserving students. If you guys would like to contribute additional funds to this great program, you may do so right now by going to www.gifar.org. We have several sponsors for today's event, and you've seen many of them on the screen today as we've displayed them. We would like to additionally thank the College of Eastern Idaho as a master's level sponsor for today's event. Would you please join me in giving them a round of applause? We will begin by having the flag ceremony presented by the Idaho Falls Police Department Honor Guard. So please welcome them. Please stand.
Port arms. Forward march. Left, 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 left. Mark time, march. Right, face. Detail, halt. Detail, post. Present arms.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star
detail, face. Forward, march. Left, left. Left, left. Left, left.
Please be seated. Again, we want to thank the Idaho Falls Color Guard for flag presentation, and City Council President, Ms. Michelle Seal Dingmang, for singing the national anthem. Now, please join me in welcoming Mayor Rebecca Casper to deliver the State of the City address.
So is the video going to play? We didn't do a dress rehearsal. Well, it was going to be fun, and maybe we'll get it to work before we're done here, but I can certainly get started. Oh, there we go.
For the first time, the Idaho Falls Police Department will have a building of its own.
All right. Before I begin, just a quick sound check. I have a lapel mic, but I can't tell if it's on or not. Is the person who needs it able to get what they need, or yes, no, now? Can't quite tell. It's good now? Okay, good. Thank you. So now we'll begin. And I will start off with a fun and formal salutation, which is honored members of the City Council who are here with us today, City Department directors, other city employees, members of the Greater Idaho Falls Association of Realtors, and of course, some friends, a family member, and last but not least, esteemed citizens of Idaho Falls. I say good afternoon and welcome. Welcome. We're so glad that we're all able to be together today. As many of you know, in the past, these remarks have been delivered at the first City Council meeting of the year, which would have been last Thursday evening. But as you can see, today marks a change in both the time and the venue for this annual address. And I thank GIFAR for taking a risk and being willing to be a part of this new idea. And put this together. I'm told we sold out of seats today, and that's kind of nice because I was worried that only 10 people would come. So thank you. And though we've changed things up a bit, the members of the Idaho Falls City Council are here. They're sprinkled throughout the room at various tables, as are our city department directors. And so if you have a chance to have a director at the table and you've got questions, they're more than willing to engage with you. But all of you, I thank you for taking time to be here this afternoon. This lunch venue means that we can now not only add the members of GIFAR, but also a great many other members of the Idaho Falls business community. And there's room for local media and even more members of the public than our city council chambers can hold. And so it gives me great pleasure to inaugurate a new annual tradition of delivering this annual report on the state of our great city to this much wider audience. So thank you, everyone, for being here. And now I didn't realize that Juan was going to take the initiative and talk a little bit about the Mayor's Scholarship Fund. So some of this may be repetitive, but it's a great time for me to mention that profits above and beyond costs today will, or proceeds above and beyond costs, right, the profits, will benefit the Mayor's Scholarship Fund. This is near and dear to my heart. I helped to co-found this nonprofit in 2006 as a way to support Idaho Falls youth in grades 8 through 12 to get on and then stay on the path to higher education. The Mayor's Scholarship Fund has grown to make, it's since grown to make annual awards for all area teens, not just Idaho Falls teens, but all area teens as they pursue higher education and training within the state of Idaho. And we're fueled entirely by local dollars. And those primarily come from local businesses who share a passion for making a difference one teen at a time. The past 17 years worth of awards have supported over 600 young people with over $600,000, and those are locally raised dollars. So this year will be our 18th year. And it'll be another year where we fund the hopes and dreams of the rising generation, no matter what the economy is doing. And so if you know any youth who need that helping hand, let them know they have, I think it's 21 more days to meet the February 8th application deadline. And on the other hand, as Juan mentioned, donations, we can take those anytime. And so the number of awards we can make always depends on the money that we can raise this time of year. And we also have a really small endowment that helps us smooth out the rough edges of the economy so that we can have a minimum number of awards each year. But I invite you, please, to spread the word to any person or business for whom higher education and training is a passion. We'll take $1, we'll take 100,000, whatever you want to give. I will say that application and donation information are available at mayorscholarshipfund.org. It's that simple. And today I'm really pleased to recognize Ms. Leslie Pincock, who is the Executive Director of the Mayor's Scholarship Fund, along with the Chair of the Mayor's Scholarship Fund Board of Directors, and one of your own, GIFAR, and that's TOK broker, Dustin Mortimer. And so I would invite the two of you to stand this afternoon. If I see Leslie. And where's Dustin? Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Leslie, for all that you do. We don't pay her a lot, because if we did, then we wouldn't be able to give out as many awards. So now getting to sort of the meat of some of the things I want to talk about today. The world that we live in, as everybody knows, has been a world in turmoil. Last week, the World Economic Forum, which made the news again this week because I think Elon Musk declined an invitation to their meeting in Davos. But last week, they released their Global Risks Report. And that report coins a new term. The term is polycrisis. And that is supposed to describe the current state of the interconnected economic threats that we face. And this polycrisis takes into consideration everything from supply chain woes to labor shortages, to inflation rates, to climate change, to a looming economic downturn, to the war in Ukraine, and on and on. And it certainly doesn't take a lot of analysis on our part to recognize that these challenges are a part of a major post-pandemic global transformation. The entire world experienced trauma, and it makes sense to me that there will be some significant impacts from that. I remember once when I had the measles as an adult, I had trauma in my body, right? 2 weeks of illness, and my hair showed a line of like blonde hair that was there until it grew out. My body experienced trauma, and it was with me for a long time. Minor. You think of the world experiencing a trauma like the pandemic. We don't just get a shot or two or in a booster and call it good. There is a long-lasting impact that's going to be with us. And we certainly have experienced a lot of those economic effects already, and very, very clearly and painfully, and maybe ways that you can count. I can certainly count some of my retirement funds, having gone down by lots of dollars. But the political, the social, the emotional, and I would even say the spiritual impacts are still playing out, and they may do that for some time now, or in the future. But we have to not only grapple with these megatrends and their impact upon our lives as citizens of the world and of our nation, but we also have to manage the local manifestations as well. And I can give you a couple of city-related examples. Supply chain woes and labor shortages have constricted the ability of local home builders and developers to construct housing in an efficient manner. Many major road improvements, particularly 17th and Holmes, where there was such a shortage of labor last year, there were no bidders for a major construction project. Those were all impacted. So supply chain, labor issues. Inflation has different impacts depending on the situation. Projects that we've had in the city, even key projects, are being postponed until new funds can be identified. And rising costs for ongoing services simply deplete the resources that we have. For example, the case of rising fuel costs on vital city services require our fleets of police vehicles, ambulances, fire trucks, sanitation trucks, snow plows, and other vehicles dedicated to public health and safety to cost us more to run, right? Big impact. A city cannot opt not to provide those kinds of services. And inflation makes it harder for us to keep all of those vehicles on the road. The war in Ukraine, we all know the war has wreaked havoc on fuel supplies, particularly the ones that fuel energy markets. Natural gas alone does not necessarily figure prominently in Idaho Falls' energy portfolio, but as we seek to develop new energy sources for our citizens to service growth in our city, the fluctuating energy markets they make it crazy difficult, and that is a technical term, right? Crazy difficult to land on what energy resource mix is going to be the one that will set us up to be resilient in the future. This is a really hard time to be making those kinds of decisions. A potential economic downturn, will we have a recession? Will we not? Were we technically in a recession? Will we be again? How does it play out? Those things impact the city's long-term planning. And then when you factor in the fact that the property taxes we pay this year are based on last year's values, we know that any downturns will take an extra year for us to feel the effects when it comes to city coffers. And we don't have the resources available to hire individuals who have these super sophisticated forecasting skills. And so we have to rely on our common sense and wise restraint in the face of fluctuating markets and uncertainty. So leading with all of these challenges might strike you as not being a very cheery way to kick off a new year. And it doesn't seem cheery to me, except, if I just dwell on the negative. But the key question, I think, is what does make sense for the city in this post-pandemic period of global adjustment? And I realized as I was listening to an economist speak last week to a group of us, including some city council members in Boise, that what makes the most sense during a period of economic uncertainty is for us to continue investing in our city. What does that look like? To me, it's all about ensuring enough local capacity to meet our service and resource needs for now and the future. That's easy to say, right? We just invest in the city for the future. That's all. That's the formula, and I go home, I sit down and go home. But what does that mean? Well, when I think of the future, I'm thinking about not just the future that we're going to live in next week, next month, or next year, but I'm also thinking about the future that we want our kids to live in and our grandchildren to live in. And we, I better not go off script here, but I will say that our planning horizon spans multiple generations in the city. So often you find political elected folks thinking only until the next election. We don't have that kind of mindset in the city. We think about our community and what it is and where it needs to be in the future. And so we've got a multi-generational kind of planning horizon. The City of Idaho Falls has 11 departments that offer a range of services to the public, and these services fall roughly into 4 categories. First and foremost, perhaps, is public safety, and that would include police, fire, and emergency medical services. Then we have our public utilities and our enterprise funds that are grouped together. That would be water, wastewater, sanitation, electricity, fiber, and transportation services such as what we find at the airport, and GIFT, which is Greater Idaho Falls Transit. Then we have our city administration departments. That would be our city attorney, our city clerk, our chief of staff, our human resources department, and other key municipal services that fall into a single department that gives us our treasury, finance, fleet management, IT, property management, and those kinds of services. And then finally, we have our quality of life departments. And these departments maybe find themselves at times struggling the most because when push comes to shove, some people say, well, these are the ones that are expendable, when really they're not. That would be like saying exercise is expendable when you're trying to figure out how to use your time, right? We know that, yeah, you can put off those steps or push-ups or sit-ups or whatever it is you need to do, but at the end, that will, it'll get you at the other end if you're not careful, right? So those quality of life departments, community development services, that includes planning, zoning, and building inspection, as well as library. How could we ever think of a library as expendable? But sometimes people do. And then, of course, parks and recreation. When we find quality things for our young people to do, and when we have places to take our families and places to regroup and to bathe in trees and green spaces and all the other things that Parks and Rec does for us, we are better and we're refreshed and we're stronger as a community. So that's what our city does. And investing in all of those, well, what does that really mean? It means more safety, not less safety. It means well-maintained facilities, not deteriorating ones. It means outstanding service available to all city residents, not just the people who can afford to pay. It means future-proofed utilities, where we have excellent technology and make really good decisions by well-trained staffers. And of course, it means sustainable management of city resources so that we mete out the resources that we have and pace ourselves for the time, and we have to not just spend all the money when we have it, but we have to pace ourselves with that. So, what has investing in Idaho Falls gotten us over the past year? Brace yourselves, the list is a little bit long. It surprised me. But in spring of 2022, we broke ground for the city's first ever standalone police complex. It was the only audio that you heard on that video presentation. This new complex will allow our police department that currently operates out of about 8 different locations to pull almost everyone together under one roof. Or one space. And the only exceptions to that would be our emergency telecommunications officers. Some people would refer to that with one word, they say dispatch. But also at our animal shelter, those operations will stay where they currently are. But walls for the complex are up, and if you drive by and look down to where the stockyards used to be, you'll see that. And we're on target at about, give or take, 50% completion, maybe a little more than that. And as far as I know, I've been asking a lot the last few days. We're on schedule, and we anticipate a move-in in hopefully early 2024. And so another year to go. In 2022, we also acquired a 6th fire station facility on the south side of town and purchased land for yet another on the north side. A growing city needs additional protection for the residents, and these new facilities will be key to keeping responses for fire and ambulance calls as low as possible. Response time. You want a low response time because that means you have a quick response, right? And that saves lives and it saves property. 2022 saw us break just about every passenger record possible at IDA, which is an easier way of saying Idaho Falls Regional Airport. We served a total of, get this is an exact number, 636,739 passengers. That's how many people flew in and out of IDA in 2022. These numbers are the highest ever. And as I said, they exceeded records and for nearly every month. So anyway, we are the second busiest airport in Idaho by far. And Boise just better watch out. But we also rolled out GIFT, which is Greater Idaho Falls Transit. I think that wins an award for being one of the best acronyms ever. The microtransit service has been busy ever since June. Over 44,000 rides were given between June and December of 2022. We expect that number will easily double in 2023, again, exceeding expectations. Customer service reviews are high. The average rating is a 4.8 out of 5 stars. And GIFT drivers really seem to care about their passengers. And at $3 a ride, GIFT is very affordable. Having GIFT means that Idaho Falls residents who do not have vehicles or cannot drive, because I remember being a teenager, right, who cannot drive, are able to get to work, keep medical appointments, go shopping, and otherwise be independent. Simply put, mobility changes lives. You know what? We forget that, especially if we're blessed with a vehicle in our lives. But mobility changes lives. And on average, GIFT picks up a rider every 2.5 minutes. And so the data that we are generating are being collected, they're being examined carefully, and they're going to be used to make decisions about microtransit service in other Idaho cities. And so we are perhaps blazing some trails there. Speaking of trails, our Public Works Department put in a good deal of behind-the-scenes effort last year, working on everything from designing new bridge work for both Pancarry Bridge, which I'll talk more about in a little bit, as well as a new future facility that's planned for 17th and Holmes. They've been creating new street designs that include multi-use pathway improvements to better accommodate motorized interconnectivity. And so for the non-geeks in the room, that it means that they're making it easier for bikers or bike riders and pedestrians to get around. And it includes improved sidewalk design and canal pathways throughout the city. So, that's good. That's part of that quality of life. Last summer, we made new friends as we established ties within the country of Mongolia. Right, that's a little bit of a, double take, Mongolia. This Asian country, which is nestled right between Russia and China, has a climate and a topography that are very similar to Idaho's. And that makes us a natural partner for species preservation. Mongolia has some pretty interesting and cool animals that we can help with. Last June, in the Make Education Center at the Idaho Falls Zoo at Topaz Park, that's a mouthful, we hosted the ambassador for Mongolia and others in his group for a tour of the zoo and dinner. And they told us a few things about camels because they know about camels. Anyway, they told us a few things that we didn't know. We spoke with them at the dinner of our small efforts to protect endangered animals native to the Mongolian steppes and our desire to do still more by creating a Mongolia exhibit at the zoo. and that will allow us to protect rare and amazing animals and to foster cultural exchange, the things that transcend politics, right? The things that build human relationships and that build or enrich our time on the planet. We had a chance too, given that Senator Risch has a prominent role on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. We were able to share our vision of cultural exchange with Mongolia with him, and he was receptive and interested, and I believe that the ambassador and the senator, at least last I knew, they had plans to meet. I didn't check up on them to find out if they did, but anyway, that was fun. It was fun. Who knew? Who knew that our zoo could have international impact like that? Well, I guess I should have known, because we do international exchange with animals all the time. But anyway, in 2022, the city established impact fees. These are common throughout the country, but they're not so popular with builders or developers. And their advantage is that they do allow new growth to pay for more of itself by collecting fees that help to pay for necessary new services, the ones that come with this new development, like fire, police, parks services and amenities, and roads. These fees will take some of the burden off of existing residents who normally foot the bill for all of these. But we got off to a pretty slow start with these fees, and we'll probably always be working to refine them. None of the council members want the fees to be too high. And none of us should ever want them to be too low if we're going to have them, because they would, if they're not set at the right sweet spot, then somebody is bearing too much of the burden for something, you know, for this growth. And so we have to constantly be on top of those. But being able to eliminate other construction-related fees has been a silver lining and a welcome aspect to implementing the fees. Our expectation with the way that we're collecting fees now is that we'll be able to use some of the funds to address the development of newly annexed roads a bit sooner and maybe more comprehensively than the old system allowed for. And so there are some positive aspects that we all will enjoy as we're able to bring county facilities up to city standards in that way. I will also say that in 2022, we hired a dedicated safety coordinator and risk manager at the city. And this allows us to have greater coordination of safety protocols to reduce insurance and workman's comp claims, as well as help to just ensure the safety and well-being of city employees. And as part of this effort, we also continued implementing safety protocols in buildings that are most heavily used by the public. You know, as you grow, you have to think about these things. And so our city is definitely growing, and our city public buildings are in need of that kind of consideration. We cut a ribbon on the new Payne substation north of town in 2022. The substation supports new transmission lines, which in turn add to the reliability of our city's electric service. Particularly, this is particularly important as demands for new and more electric power grow. By the end of 2022, we had extended municipally owned and managed fiber optic broadband service to nearly 5,000 customers. Of all the public broadband efforts in Idaho, Idaho Falls Fiber serves more customers than any other city in Idaho. This is particularly true when our dark fiber network is factored in. Dark fiber is fiber that we provide to others, and they will light it themselves with data and content. And we've been in that business since 2002. And so anyway, the dark fiber makes most of the other private and commercial broadband possible within the city of Idaho Falls. And so there's, or I wouldn't say broadband, I'll say connectivity. But anyway, we are doing very well with that. We reopened the Aquatic Center earlier this past year, or earlier in last year, with new and much needed dehumidification capacity. Our dehumidifiers were not performing the way they should have, and so they I thought it was dehumidification, but dehyde. What does HIDE stand for? It still is dehumidification. Okay, I've suddenly got a little worried that I had the wrong word there, but I got a nod. Okay, anyway, we painted the building. We replaced a few things as well, and the West East Aquatic Center got something of a facelift, and hopefully it'll be in service for many more years to come. In late 2022, city crews cut a new roadway that has been named Leo Larson Drive through a small little section of Topfus Park, and that will improve circulation and traffic flow within the park. And there's always more to come at Topfus Park, so stay tuned. But I'm told and I know that Funland progress is slow but steady. So Leo Larson Drive just happens to open out right there by the Funland property. So more to come. In May of 22, we opened the city's first splash pad, and it was well used even on cold days. In fact, I think the day we cut the ribbon, it was a little bit chilly, and there were kids out there with shoes off and shorts on, and I was reaching for my jacket. But we also opened a dog-friendly Shadows Park in September, which is a small pocket park off of 12th Street. And we had a soft opening for the pedestrian and bike walkway along the Snake River within Heritage Park. So it's always a good sign, as we had there, when people start using a facility even before you've got it open, and that's certainly what happened there in Heritage Park. And while it was not a city project, the opening of the long-awaited events center represented a really significant addition to our community, not just to our skyline or the vista off of the interstate as you're driving by, but it also, and it's not just either the transformative entertainment that we get there now, but it also gives us increased capacity in our community. And whether that's just allows us to do more or have more, it allows us to be more and bring in more for our citizens and the businesses that support the citizens and the visitors that come to the center. And so the Mountain America Center is very significant, and quite simply, it puts Idaho Falls on more radar screens than we were on before. So it increases our capacity and our profile. And then finally, in 2022, 2 more city council members, our council president, Michelle Ziehl-Dingman, whom you've already heard from today, and Councilor John Radford, were appointed to statewide advisory boards. Michelle was appointed to a board on public transit, and partly because of all she's been able to accomplish with GIFT. And John was appointed to an economic development advisory committee, as well as I believe he serves on an environmental conservation committee, but I'm not sure how recent that appointment was. Anyway, I should point out that these 2 are not the only council members who are active in the community and in the state. All Idaho Falls council members serve on other boards and in leadership capacities above and beyond just their assignment to be city councilors. This kind of broadens the city's reach as they serve, and certainly it broadens our influence, but at the same time, that external experience deeply informs the council's policymaking. Idaho Falls citizens are very blessed to have these kinds of leaders at the helm. They're willing and they're smart. Now, bear in mind, everything that I just mentioned is just the old news, the stuff that happened last year, and stuff we've already done. So clearly, our city has, like the rest of urban Idaho, emerged from the pandemic just swinging for the fences. But I can tell you that the year ahead is filled with even more opportunity. I've already outlined some of the risks that we face, many of them having to do with the economy, but here's a peek at some of what we can expect from our departments in 2022. And it's not all departments, but I'll just tell you that IDA, I've already mentioned all of the growth and the records that we broke last year, but to keep up with the demand, our airport will continue to be under construction. And I love that. I love that we're growing so fast that we don't even get to take a break from having to do more expansion in between expansion projects. But thankfully, I think we're past the folding chair phase. So for those of you who used the airport last year, you had to sit in a folding chair. We've got the, supply chain kicked in, and we were able to get our chairs. And anyway, the current expansion project that we've got going now is behind the scenes. And it's back of house improvements to help city staff, TSA officers, and ground crews be safer and warmer and more efficient. In addition, I should mention, just like the Mountain America Center, airport parking has gone cashless. IDA took over operations of the parking lots on January 1st this year, and this is part of the airport's continuing efforts to improve the passenger experience. So hopefully you'll be able to get in and out much more quickly. Community development. Developers, civil engineers, and other construction professionals will be very pleased to know that we're in the home stretch of a multi-year effort to replace the current Track-It system, it's a software system, with a new product from CityWorks. However, I don't expect that it's going to roll out before the 2023 construction season. So a little more patience is going to be required, but we can at least, well, what we'll say is that we're going through some growing pains, but there's light at the end of the tunnel on that one. As far as our fire department goes, last year our fire department was awarded a grant called the SAFER grant that allowed us to hire and train, that will allow us to hire and train 12 new firefighters this year. And that's perfectly aligned with our needs because, as we mentioned, we have that new facility that we need to staff. And I believe it was this morning that we saw a post on Facebook from Idaho Falls, the Idaho Falls Fire Department. They've actually got 15 individuals in that recruit. They call it a recruit academy, but it's essentially a training class that will run for several weeks as those new hires get trained on the job. And anyway, they do a great job of keeping everybody informed on Facebook. So if you're interested in that and watching these professionals, these newly minted professionals progress in their career, pay attention on Facebook. As far as Idaho Falls Power and Fiber, I've already described the successful build out for Idaho Falls, but our goal is to have the capacity to serve every resident in Idaho Falls with state-of-the-art fiber optic technology. That's an audacious goal, but that is it's very real and obtainable. In fact, we're very close. These thin strands of glass make it possible for citizens to benefit from an incredible level of connectivity for telecommuting, for work, for school, for medical care. And by the end of 2023, the year that we've just started, our installation will be about 95% complete. And in 2024, we'll then, finish up with a few small remaining areas and then maybe go more into some marketing. But increased capacity improves online entertainment recreation, right, in addition to all the other things that happen when you can telecommute. But you can also have enhanced data storage. So if you've got a lot of photos or something, there's benefit there. And it facilitates, security and whatever else you might think you need from all of your smart devices. And I don't kid you when I say that right now one of my kids has a camera aimed at some new electronic cat food dispensers that Santa brought last month. And now all of my kids can tune in and see if the cats are eating and when they eat and if they like using those cat food dispensers. And apparently that is important. And so the point is that the more smart devices we have in our homes, the more we will need the increased capacity afforded by fiber optic technology. Now, it was Ammon who increased our awareness of fiber optics, and they are making incredible progress as well. And we're both bringing fiber optic technology to our residents that as infrastructure, and that we invite the private sector to play on, right? They're the ones who provide the services. And this is the Eastern Idaho models, because these are two different kinds of models of service delivery. Because it's not all the same in terms of the way we do it or the way we fund it. But this is, I think, incredibly important work. This is future-oriented work. And so, anyway, I will say that we have 6 providers in Idaho Falls that provide 13 different plans and programs that you can be on. So if your neighborhood has access to fiber and you haven't looked into it, you will save money and you will get excellent service. There's just no question about it. So look into that. And if you haven't had it brought to your department or your neighborhood yet, it's likely coming this year. Anyway, if you need more information, there's a really good FAQ page, and you can on the city's power website, and you can also call and get real human beings to answer your questions, and that's always nice. Moving on, Public Works has a really busy construction season ahead, and if there's enough labor and willing bidders, we expect a number of street improvement projects to go forward. So let me just list a few. The intersection of 17th and Woodruff, again, will be bid out. That will reconstruct the intersection and add dual left turn lanes and right turn lanes on all 4 approaches. The intersection of 17th Street and Rolandette, picture where that is, right, coming right out by the sandwich tree. That will be reconstructed to eliminate left turns off of Rolandette onto 17th Street. Now, for those of you who turn left there, that's, sorry, but it will be so much safer. So, got some applause on that one. All right, as happens every year, ITD and Idaho Falls, all those problematic pothole areas, of course, will be milled and inlaid with new pavement. Wintertime cold weather fixes that you might see on potholes are always temporary at best. Sometimes we fill them and they pop right back out within like less than a month. It's just, you can't fix them until the warm weather comes. But that's always on the list of things to do when the weather warms up. So in the meantime, keep your eyes on the road when you're driving, because if you hit a pothole and it does damage, you won't be happy. The Pancarry Bridge is scheduled for deck resurfacing and construction on North Woodruff Avenue. Picture North Woodruff. There's a Sinclair station there. You're on Woodruff and Lincoln. If you're heading north after that, then we will add an additional northbound lane in between Lincoln Road and Yellowstone Highway. Those folks there have been in the city for a while, and they're just barely going to see a benefit this coming year from that. And that's not the end. The end will come with even better construction and improvement of North Woodruff later, but this will be a stopgap measure. Also, city staff will continue to support ITD in their planning and design efforts associated with the recently announced environmental impact study that has to be done for the I-15 US 20 connector and that new route that they're proposing. So there's a lot going on there for Public Works. Other major non-streets public works projects that are planned for construction this summer include bidding out the water tower, and also the wastewater treatment plant's dewatering project. So a lot going on. Our police department, and this is the last thing I'll preview here for 23, but in late 2021, we began to receive news of the city's allotment of opioid settlement funds. And these dollars are coming as a result of settled lawsuits against the distributors of these too easily abused pharmaceuticals. One report shows Idaho receiving just over $3.8 million. In mid-2022, some of the funding was distributed out to various cities. And as you can imagine, how these funds are distributed and are to be spent is carefully prescribed and monitored by the Attorney General's office. The one-time funding is intended for very specific use. And we're not rushing to expend these funds, but instead we're considering their very best use very carefully. We've determined to use some of the funding to develop a police-assisted addiction recovery initiative, PARI for short. And late last year, we sent a small team to receive some additional training on the PARI model. Our hope is to assemble a multidisciplinary rapid response team of professionals. A team might include a police officer, an EMT/firefighter, and a social worker who can respond to the residence of a person who has an overdose within 48 to 72 hours. They would offer help and guidance regarding options for treatment and harm reduction. There's good data on these models, but we're excited to see what we can do here. However, some very significant and what I might say are very powerful professional rules and norms come into play when you bring these professions together. And they weren't designed to work together, and so there are some trust issues and some new protocols that have to be figured out. And this is just a reality, right? It's not a condemnation of anything. I'm not complaining or whining. It's just what has to happen is that they have to figure out how will they work together. And so, HIPAA, all kinds of things that some haven't had to deal with before, now they're going to have to start dealing with and meshing it into how they're going to work together as a team. And so, we should not expect quick results, and we should not condemn the painstaking efforts that they will undertake to see how this can be done in the best way. It sounds easy. Oh yeah, just send a social worker out with the police. It'll be fine. It'll be a lot better. It takes a lot of work. So we all want this to move forward, and nobody wants that more than I do. My extended family has seen the devastating effects of opioid use and addiction, and I know I'm not alone in this. I know that many in this room could say the same. I won't ask you to raise your hands, but I bet a lot of you can tell a sad story. The pain of some loss may never go away, and I don't really want anybody else to go through this. We know that there's considerable crossover between mental illness and opioid addiction, and we're not talking about mental illness as a toss-away phrase. Even the more common afflictions like anxiety and depression can have higher association with opioid addiction. And so this is really important work that our police department, our fire department, and our partnerships with the social work agencies, including Eastern Idaho Public Health, this is important work that they're embarking upon with the opioid addiction settlement money, or opioid settlement money. So I ask each of you, regardless of the vantage point that you might have, to be patient and to be optimistic in your support of this process. They say hope isn't a strategy, and I agree, but in this case, hope is a means to the end that we want to see. Don't allow cynicism to impede this important life-saving work and the pioneering nature of blending these professions into a new cooperative model. And yes, I do hope we will be able to find ways to fund these interagency, interdisciplinary teams. Success here will cross over to many other areas, and I hope progress with the PARI model will lead to Idaho Falls having the kind of community that responds to crisis as effectively as we possibly can. Now, I have more pages, and it is way over time. So I'm going to have to wrap up and not talk about property taxes, and also not talk about an unnecessary infusion of partisanship into city governance. But let me just tell you that there's some good stuff here, and I will be happy to share it maybe in another way. I might have to write an op-ed or something. I've already written it. I may have to get an op-ed, get my comments published here. But anyway, I will say to close that I want you to know that I know who I work for. People sometimes say, oh, I bet her neighborhood's plowed first. It's not. It's not. Ask my neighbors. We do what makes sense to serve the citizenry best in the city. And my job is to deliver a city with a strong foundation, which supports the kind of community that we want to live in, that we can thrive in, that we can prosper in, and that we can raise our children in. That's what I'm working for. I know who I work for, and that's what I'm working for. So despite any challenges we might encounter, we do continue to prosper as a community, mostly because we work together. We benefit from the knowledge and the judgment of outstanding city professionals, many of whom are in the room today. We have impressive department directors, and they have great judgment, but we have impressive employees all the way down to the people who mow the lawn at the park. We benefit from city residents who have high standards and expectations, and they let us know about it, and they ask hard questions, and they step up sometimes and they volunteer, and they step up other times and they let us have it. We benefit from that. We benefit from being transparent with our work. Today, I can close by confidently telling you that Idaho Falls is a beacon of hope in Eastern Idaho. And Eastern Idaho is a beacon of hope in a world that's still reeling. We have a strong city with strong leaders and a clear-eyed sense of where we need to go. The state of our city is strong, and Idaho Falls' future is bright. And I could not be more proud to serve and to be a part of this great community. Thank you so much for all that you do and contribute, for who you are, whether you're friends or professional colleagues or just people who love living here as much as I do. Thank you. And thanks for letting me speak, even though I went way, way over time. Take care.
Thank you, Mayor Casper. And those of you in the room that know me, those few of you that know me, I would have gone way longer than Mayor Casper if you guys let me speak. So about a year ago, we were approached by the mayor's office about, and she's mentioned this, about hosting the State of the City. And when we got that invitation, we were excited about what we could do. We're real estate agents, but before that, some of us were doing other things. So we saw this as like, oh yeah, this is gonna work. And then we got to work, and along the way, the mayor's office picked up some people along the way, Leslie. And because of all of that, we were able to put this event together. So we want to present the mayor with a small check. Well, small in quantity. So this is a preliminary number. It'll fluctuate up, not down. And it'll fluctuate even more if you guys want to donate and go to GIFAR.org and donate to the Mayor's Scholarship Fund. But for right now, we have a check for $4,000. So can we get Leslie to come up, please, and Mayor and.
We're not tall. We'll do another picture later, but. Thanks. Thank you so much. Woo!
So to conclude our event, again, we just want to thank all those people that made this event possible. GIFAR Board of Directors, Mayor's Office, all the sponsors, everyone who is here today, taking time out of their day to join us. We really appreciate you guys being here. And because of you guys, it is how we can raise money for the Mayor's Scholarship Fund. Thank you. We are hereby adjourned.